in this game. They don't want to go back down 3-1. I would look probably at the Bruins and regulation line. More than that, I'm going to focus on the derivative market here. More than anything, I think Boston does get some offense tonight that they didn't get in game four. Hey, it's a series of adjustments. You look at Nashville, Winnipeg, good coaches are making adjustments, and the team is responding off those adjustments. We saw Nashville do that last night. I think Boston does it tonight. I think they get the offense cranked up a little bit. So, what I'm going to do with Boston here tonight, look at the over here, 3.5 plus 120 with their team total. That's something that definitely piques my interest. I think they're going to get a little more offense going tonight thanks to those lineup changes that are going to, I think, be a positive for this Boston Bruins team tonight. And obviously facing a situation where they need to pick up this win on home ice. So that's the thing I like most in this game, the Bruin team total over the 3.5. Alex, we'll start with you because I know you don't have a ton of strong opinions on the two games today. So just briefly, Tampa Boston, anything that you want to bring up for us?
Oh, like you said, this is a huge game for Boston, obviously, and it's going to be interesting to see. I called the under a while back, and I said it's going to be a game that would be dominated by both goaltenders, and that's just what's been worrying me about this whole series is that we could see both goalies at any given night either can be play world class hockey and not allow anything past them, or they can have a bit of an off night and let a deflection here or there go by them. And so the total's been really hard to read with this and really decide as well because of that. So this is a series that I haven't really bet much and then probably won't even jump in on more than likely the rest of the way until something huge pops out at me. But like I said, I think that's going to be the key again here is the goaltending. If we can see Rask or Vasilevsky be razor sharp, or if we see them tend to falter and get rattled with some traffic in front of them. And like I said, Boston, we've seen this from Boston before. That's been kind of their weak spot throughout the year. Where they have giant spurts of offense and they keep it very consistent. And all of a sudden, they only have one or two goals. And when that top line gets quiet with Marchand and Pasternak and so forth, then the rest of the team kind of follows suit and kind of struggles as well offensively. So with these line changes that Cassidy will be making, hopefully that wakes guys up and that'll get some offense going for Boston. It'll be an interesting game, but I got nothing to do with the side or total.
All right, Dana, Tampa Bay, Boston.
Yeah, I mean, for me, listen, Donato going into the lineup is really no different than what a lot of coaches have done. We saw Paul Maurice making some lineup changes that putting in some younger guys that gave them more speed, and I think that's exactly what Bruce Cassidy is kind of looking for here as well. I'm not certain I'm focus on making sure focus on the fact that he will get two goals and all of a sudden elevate the Bruins offensively, but let's face it. I mean, that third line has been pretty non-existent, and I think you have to slot him down in the third line. There's no reason to put him up in the top six. They're going fine. I mean, um, you know, Danton Heinen is likely their best player on their third line, and he's been absolutely non-existent. David Backes, I never know what to expect from him game in and game out. I mean, he could have a 3-point night and then be lost for 2 weeks. So that's kind of where Backes is in my mind. But Danton Heinen certainly has to step up. I mean, this is a guy that has one goal in almost a month. In fact, he's only scored one postseason goal, and that was against Toronto, and didn't score since the first couple days of April before that. So I think it's imperative that the bottom six at least contribute. And let's be fair, they are contributing because the bottom six are laying all over the ice and blocking shots, which the top six are not. But they are offensively, they're very heavy on the top six. They're very heavy on the top three. And honestly, for Boston to have success tonight, yes, they gotta block a ton of shots and commit defensively. But I really think that you need to get some production out of that third line, as you do a lot of these teams. I think you need production out of Vegas's third line. I mean, you can't roll six out there and hope that you're going to beat a team that can roll three or roll four, as Tampa can, and as the San Jose Sharks can as well. So that doesn't mean they're that doesn't mean I'm down on them. Basically what I'm saying is I really think that you're going to get a much better effort and a spark from Donato going into the lineup, and sometimes it doesn't show up on the score sheet. I mean, we talked about Kyle Connor from Winnipeg, moving lines, and he didn't scorer and didn't have any assist or anything. So, point wise, it didn't look like he contributed, but the energy that they brought, and I think that that's where Bruce Cassidy is going with this move, is just having a young energy guy inserted into the lineup that I think is going to breathe some life into the Bruins offensively. He knows that they can't win these games, 2-1, 3-2. I mean, they've got to score goals like they're accustomed to doing throughout the regular season in order to beat Tampa Bay. Because if you think you're going to shut Tampa Bay down with a erratic goaltender like Tuukka Rask, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that theory. So I'm going to go with the Bruins. We're going Bruins even money in regulation tonight in an effort um, to regain control of this series, if you will. But if that bottom six doesn't produce, I'm just afraid that this series is going to slip away.
Yeah, this is my last chance to put in faith in Boston. I think they will respond. I think these are going to just spark everybody. The top line's going to get going. Like, other than the Bergeron power play goal, even the top line was shut down pretty good by Tampa the other night. I don't think that's going to happen to that extent again. Give Tampa credit. Maybe Tampa is just going to seize control of this series and show that they're going to put their foot down again tonight. But I'm not ready to buy it and write off Boston just quite yet. I think they're going to be an improved team at the offensive side. You're going to see them score. Remember, these guys, the Bruins, I mean, they were averaging 4.25 goals per game in the playoffs at home prior to Game 3 of this series. Now, obviously, all of that was against Toronto, and maybe that, sometimes Swiss cheese leaf defense had something to do with it. But Boston, I think, has got a better offensive game in it. Like I said, prior to the last game, they had averaged over 4 goals per game at home. If I can get 4 or more out of them tonight, I can cash that team total. That's why I like that one over 3.5 there. Andrew McGinnis, Tampa Bay, Boston. Do the Bruins have a response in them? You were none too pleased the other night talking about those Boston Bruins. What do you think about them going into tonight?
Yeah, Ian, I think that's probably the most worked up you've ever seen me like that before. And yeah, I definitely wasn't really happy with them. And the biggest thing for me is just consistency. It just pisses me off seeing teams play a certain way against one team, like the Bruins played against the Leafs, guys. That's why it's such a pleasure working with you guys every week and throughout these entire days, because we're really watching the playoffs and we really get to break it down week by week and episode by episode. And it makes it interesting that way, because this same team that really had a great performance against the Leafs, and they were able to put up so many goals easily, and they seem to play their top game. I mean, when they had their best games, they were on fire. But right now, guys, I got to compare it. This Boston Bruins team kind of reminds me of the regular season Cleveland Cavaliers. When they have a bad start and they start taking bad shots and the game slips away from them, it seems like they're a lot more of a mentally weak team than I really thought they were. They're one of those teams where if they have a great start and a great first period and they're finishing their checks and they're getting opportunities, they're going to have a great rest of the game. But I feel like if they don't have a good start to the game, we're late in the second period and they're still hurting and they still feel like they can't solve Vasilevsky. They seem like they're just damaged. Like they're not a team like Pittsburgh yet where they just won't give up, or they'll just keep counting on it, keep relying on their chances. And that does worry me a lot. I'm not just going to sit here and talk about the last game and what I've seen on it, but that does worry me, guys, because I feel like right now we're seeing this Tampa Bay team just going through the motions, just playing their kind of hockey. Every line goes out and they give it their all, and they're creating opportunities. But like Alex mentioned, we can't just rely on those top guys. But at the same time, we got to start seeing something out of them. We got to start seeing some production. And to be honest, guys, that price is too steep for me. I'm kind of making a little bit of a pass on the game. I really, really, really do want to do what you're doing, Ian, with the team total, but I think they're going to have an explosive effort. But if I were to make a play on this game, it would be the team total over, because I can't really trust the full game over, to be honest. I don't know what to expect of these two teams. I know in a game like this and a bounce back opportunity, you need to have, if not the best performance defensively and from your goaltender in Tuukka Rask. So for me, I'd look for the team total, but guys, to be honest with you, there's a lot of things we need to see change from this Bruins team, and Tampa Bay is kind of just outworking them right now. So we got to see a huge effort for tonight from the Bruins.
Yeah, I think we'll get the effort. Will we get the win and will we get the goals is going to be the question mark. But yeah, Boston knows what's in front of them. And they've already got it in a lot of these depth charts and then forward combinations that I'm reading going into tonight based on the morning skate. Donato with Riley Nash and David Backes. So there you go. They've sort of got him, as Dana alluded to, that likely the third line is where he'd put him. That might indeed be where Ryan Donato ends up tonight for game 4 alongside Riley Nash and Backes. You're going to have that second line, not much change there. And of course, the top line, you'd be crazy to ever change that group the way they've played in the playoffs. So that looks like the way Boston will be going tonight. We'll see if they've got a chance to tie this series up and can get it done and force a best 2 out of 3 as the scene shifts back to Tampa on Sunday. Let's go to Vegas. Let's go to Sin City, Dana's backyard. San Jose, Vegas, game 5. Vegas minus 150. Total 5.5 here. Hey, we had an under finally in this series the other day. Wednesday night, a great performance by Martin Jones. What was it? 36 save shutout for him in that game. Fantastic performance. 4-0 win for San Jose. And I kind of thought San Jose, to be honest, was going to win that game. And like I say, I wasn't all that upset that they won that game. I like Vegas in the series, but I also have a Vegas in 7 exact series bet going for the Golden Knights to win this series 4-3. So we're on pace for that right now. Like we've had each team exchanging wins so far. It's been a zigzag theory series. Vegas, San Jose, Vegas, San Jose. That's been your win pattern so far. So the win pattern says Vegas tonight, and I probably agree with that. Minus 150 is not exactly a bargain. But I think Vegas, it's their turn to make adjustments. It's their turn to have their goalie step up and play better. Marc-Andre Fleury, like Martin Jones did in the last game. It's time for Gerard Gallant to respond and with coaching adjustments. It's time for the team to respond after a poorer performance and a loss, which is something that Vegas has done consistently and repeatedly all season long, including in the playoffs. Remember, they lost game 2. What did they do? Win game 3 in San Jose in overtime. So I have no qualms about Vegas's response level after a poor performance. We've seen them bounce back strong in the next game multiple times. I think they can do it tonight. So Vegas minus 150. Again, I'll be on that side. It's probably going to be a half unit play for me, not a full 1 unit, but I'll have something there. Vegas minus 150. I think this pattern just continues. I think Vegas probably wins tonight. San Jose's probably going to hold serve at home in game 6, and we're probably going to have a 7-game series. And I just hope Vegas pulls it out for me and keeps this incredible run going for another round at least. But we'll see. Don't ever count San Jose out of this thing by a long shot. It's been a great series, been very competitive. Game 4 was game 4 and game 1 were a little lopsided, but it's been a very hard-fought, contested back-and-forth series, and fascinated to see how this one plays out tonight. Dana, let's start with you for this discussion of this game tonight. San Jose and Vegas. What do you like here?
Well, Ian, I agree with just about everything you said. I mean, I accept the outcome in Game 7. I still think San Jose squeaks one out in Game 7 and does take 2 out of 3 from the Knights, which means that I think that the Golden Knights will win tonight. And I'm kind of painting myself into a corner, but I'm trying to use the psychology of the series where we've seen before where Marc-Andre Fleury has definitely come back from a loss. He wasn't great. I thought, I didn't think the second goal just before the end of the period was played particularly well. I thought that either Schmidt or McNabb should have went up to engage the San Jose shooter. They didn't. They decided to go back, and Fleury lost it, in the legs, and then see it come off cleanly off the sticks. And honestly, if they did go up and engage, one of them would have killed off the remaining amount of time. Well, that's fine. It's debatable how you want to play defense, but you got a 2-on-1. Both guys cannot take the shooter. One guy's got to be the aggressor in that case. But anyway, so it's obvious now as we look at the progression of this series that now it's starting to get into the defensive phase. And so San Jose won game 4 because they were clearly the better of the two defensively. In fact, they were not shy and setting 3, sometimes 4 forecheckers and really forcing Vegas to go outside the box and not play their game. Vegas likes to get the puck up the ice with long stretch passes and really get into transition quickly. And that's something that Gerard Gallant's going to have to make an adjustment to tonight, because what happens when a team challenges you and you can't beat them for 200 feet? Well, what you do is you got to slow your transition down a little bit. You have to bring your forwards back to your defensemen, not have as much spacing, and you have to have correct positioning in order to take those passes. And it's if you can break that, it's very similar to a full court press in the NBA. I mean, it's if you can break it, that's great on the other end, and then you really prevent teams from pressing you. But if you can't, you're gonna be in for a difficult 60 minutes of hockey, which we saw the other night. And let's be honest, I mean, the Knights had problems getting the puck through the neutral zone and just did not dump it in as many times as I thought, and utilize their speed. But at the same time, guys, I really thought there were some guys that took some shifts off, and the name that comes to mind right now is David Perron. In fact, I had to go back in the box score just to make sure he was playing. I mean, that was 17 minutes of the quietest hockey I've ever seen. And David Perron is a guy that's not just out there to block shots and take up space. I mean, he is a guy that needs to lead that third line, and he's not doing it. And honestly, David Perron's losing money by the day. He's in a contract year, and this is where you make your money. And right now, he's not only playing himself out of Vegas, he's playing himself out of a big contract. He needs to come up big. He needs to be noticeable, and he needs to stop worrying about Brandon Dillon, because that is the one thing. Every time you notice David Perron, Dillon's right next to him, getting under his skin. So mentally, he's really won that battle and taking Perron out of this series. And again, Vegas is left to rely on their top six forwards. Whereas Perron is supposed to be the guy to kind of push that third line. He's been really non-existent, and that's why Vegas has just not been consistent. We talked all year about this team being able to roll out four lines. I've always debated that because I didn't think that to me means you're dangerous on all four lines. Well, Carrier and Bellemare, they don't scare me. They keep you honest, but they don't scare me. And again, it's a broken record because we continuously talk about this series, but San Jose does have that ability to roll out four true lines that's able to hurt you offensively, and ultimately, I think that's going to be the difference in this series. But tonight, Gallant makes the adjustments. I think that the spacing's a little bit shorter, the positioning is a little bit better, quick passes out of the zone and to find that seam and then create offense out of that seam. Which is something they didn't do the other night. So I got it at $1.45 this morning. I'm willing to take one more chance with Vegas, but I think after this game, I think San Jose is going to make their adjustment, and then I think they're going to steal one at T-Mobile in Game 7.
Steal one at T-Mobile. Oh, what a horrifying scene that would be for the locals if Game 7 were to end the season of the Vegas Golden Knights on their home ice. But you know what's funny? If that does happen, they'll be upset. They'll be shocked. It'll be gasps at the beginning. But when that team is going off the ice after the handshakes, if that does happen, they're going to get the loudest ovation you're going to ever imagine for a team that's just lost a playoff series. You know, people are going to give them all the camaraderie and kudos and thanks for the season it's been if it comes to that. If they ever get eliminated on home ice, not just in this series, but at any point in this playoffs, you're going to hear the loudest ovation and cheer that you'll ever hear for a team that's just got knocked out. You can guarantee that. Andrew, San Jose, Vegas, Game 5.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to look at the under in this game. I was on it last game, and I just think that as far as a bounce back spot for Marc-Andre Fleury goes, I think that he's the kind of goalie that no matter how his team played in front of him the night before, no matter what the result is, off a loss in general, but just off of what I saw out of his team in that last game, just didn't really seem impressed. And I think that it all does start with the way that your team plays. But I think that if Fleury shows early on in this game that, he's not taking no for an answer, he's not letting in anything easy, he's going to cover up everything he sees. He's going to make it look easy. The puck's going to float into him like a little beach ball. I think that it's going to be one of those games right now where it's going to be Fleury against Marty Jones. I mean, I just can't see this series, guys. Right now it's funny. You always look at you're pairing the games, the series together, and we've got the Tampa, Boston, and then the Vegas, San Jose, and they're two different types of series to me. Because in my opinion, this series isn't one of those ones where it's first to get 4 goals wins. Whereas that Tampa, Boston series, we're all expecting so many goals. I think that this series right now is the one that is pretty much the team that makes the least amount of mistakes, the team that stays true to their identity. And Dana, I like the way that you use the phrase "keeping you honest." I really like that phrase because it's true. I mean, whenever I always use the word depth, I don't always mean I don't think these fourth line guys can can kill us. Can make these top corner goals and make these setups that you could see on the first line guys, second line guys. So what I really mean by that is that I think they can provide some kind of dangerous opportunity out there. They can keep you guessing and make something dangerous happen. And I think that that's what's going to happen tonight for this Vegas team is they're going to have to roll out 4 lines, but they're going to have to stop slowing down at the blue line and trying to set things up. Keep just dumping it in, right? Go chase it. Use your speed. Tire out this San Jose team, right? I'm tired of San Jose having control of this series all of a sudden. I'm tired of them controlling the puck and making San Jose and making Vegas look like they're the slow team. I don't think they're a slow team whatsoever. I think they can make San Jose get tired, make them have to earn every bit of possession they have, every bit of quality scoring opportunities that they have. And I think that this game is going to be an under 5.5 as well. It's my play on this game. And I think it's going to be a slow start to it. We're going to see some other excellent goaltending. And each goal is scored in this game, guys. I think it's going to be a very hard-earned goal.
Yeah, I remember the Vegas series. The closer they against LA and even San Jose against Anaheim, the closer it got to the end of the series, the more tighter things got, the better defensive things got. The goaltending, of course. Now that Martin Jones officially announced himself as I'm in this series and I'm going to have a chance to win this series for my team, I think you're going to see good goaltending tonight. So from a totals perspective, even though I was on some overs early in the series because I thought there was value, well, now you're getting upwards now, 5.5. And now the adjustment was made. We got some 5s early on in this series that I took advantage of. So I think we're going to see a situation where I think you're going to see more lower scoring than higher scoring the rest of this series moving forward. And by the way, though, the one thing I will bet on from a goal scoring standpoint tonight, hey, I've been missing out on James Neal to score the last couple times. I know that. And I know he still hasn't popped one in, but he's had 17 shots on goal, James Neal, in the last 3 games. I'm going right back to it tonight. James Neal finally gets on the score sheet, scores a goal for the first time since game 1. He's going to do it tonight. We're going to take it one more time here with James Neal. Hopefully not take it up the ass. Hopefully just take it. James Neal in terms of scoring a goal here tonight with this prop. Finally, it's going to cash tonight. I like it. James Neal will get on the board, I think, and score a goal for the Vegas Golden Knights here in this game tonight. Alex B. Smith, again, I know your stronger opinions are on Saturday's card, but anything of interest for you here tonight in Vegas?
Well, I think Andrew made a good point, and it's something that I noticed. I think we all noticed it at the end of round 1, the games ending up round 1. We saw the shift from massive overs, tons of scoring, to teams like clamping down defensively and games going under, and that's something that we've seen now. So we've got some incredible goaltending matchups in all these series, pretty much. And I think this is one of those games too, where it's just going to be how sharp is Fleury, how sharp is Martin Jones, and both these guys are completely capable of stealing games here. And I think the only way I would be looking here would be the under. I don't see where there's going to be a lot of freewheeling, up and down rushes. There's going to be a lot of methodical chances, a lot of calculated stuff. It's not going to be just a complete crapshoot or a boat race here. I expect the under to cash simply on the fact that you got 2 goalies who are experienced veterans in the postseason. They know that they have to, be as much of a brick wall as they possibly can to make sure that they get the edge here in a game that's obviously pretty much going to dictate the series. Now that we have a best of 3 series, we're back to square one. So the under is a decent price. That's what I'm leaning toward heavily. I don't know if I'm going to actually play it, but that's the only thing I'm looking at here with this matchup tonight.
All right, so there's Alex's take, San Jose, Vegas, Game 5. Let's move to Saturday now. We've got Saturday's series are very intriguing, both of them. We've got 2-2 in both of them here. So it's a situation where, we're down to best 2 of 3 now. Pittsburgh, Washington, Winnipeg, Nashville, starting with Pittsburgh, Washington. Now, both games are tomorrow night. NBC's got the Kentucky Derby all day, all afternoon coverage tomorrow, so there's no afternoon hockey tomorrow as a result. They're both night games. That's good. I'm glad they've got the schedule the way they do. Putting on an NHL playoff game for years, they've done this on the Kentucky Derby Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific is total disrespect. Totally asinine to do that for an NHL playoff game, putting it on that early. They're doing the right thing now. Put them on at night. Put them on after the Derby, and that's exactly what they're doing. Pittsburgh, Washington, 7:05 p.m. Eastern face-off. We've got Washington minus 110 to minus 115 home favorites. The total 5.5 shaded to the over at about minus 120. The Pittsburgh Penguins really put their foot down last night. Good all-around performance for the most part. took care of business, won 3-1 against the Washington Capitals, one of their better defensive games. Matt Murray had stepped up after he's shown some weakness at times throughout the playoffs, not just in this round, but even in the first round. There were a couple games where Matt Murray just didn't play all that great. For the Pittsburgh Penguins. He played much better last time out, getting this series even. Now the scene shifts to Washington, and it puts a little more pressure now back on the Capitals. You're 2-2. You never beat this team in the postseason. You never win in this round in the postseason. Now you're 2-2, best 2 of 3. You're at home. You need this game. You don't want to go down 3-2 going back to Pittsburgh. So how do the Washington Capitals respond to this sort of pressure? I'm not willing to bet this side one way or the other. I still think Pittsburgh finds a way to win this series, but I'm going to stay out of the side. The last time I was given a 5.5 in this series from a total standpoint, it went over the total. It was the one and only over in this series, the 4-3 game, which was game 3, and that total opened 5.5, and then it was bet up to 6. We're seeing this one open at 5.5, and if they're going to give me that 5.5, I'll take the over. I think that's value in a series like this after a game where it was a little tighter, a lot of missed chances, posts, missed open nets on power plays from both sides in game 4. I think you get a little bit more finish offensively from both teams Saturday night. So over 5.5 is the way I'll bet this one. Minus 120, Pittsburgh, Washington, game 5. Let's start with Andrew this time for this series. Pittsburgh, Washington, game number 5 Saturday night. Andrew, what do you like here?
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that, Ian. The over 5.5, I like that number a lot. And, when I look at this series, guys, and I've talked about this, and I've talked about how teams are different in the playoffs, etc., and I can go on and on about it. But the fact is, we're getting now into crunch time. I mean, as these series go on, and then we get to the later half of them, guys. We're getting into crunch time. We're getting into clutch time, and it's where we have to see these guys really step up and play their actual game and come together as a group. And I think that's the part the Capitals still don't know how to do. And what I said on the late night anger management show with you and Gabian was that I thought that collectively as a group they would come together yesterday and find a way to win that game. And when I said that, I didn't mean I think that they'll win 6-0, but they'll find a way to get it done. And that exactly that they did. And I just don't think that Washington has it in them collectively to find a way to. And the thing about this Penguins team, and no one can take away from them, is that you can realistically have Malkin, Crosby, Kessel, all on a different line. I mean, the thing that makes the Pittsburgh Penguins so special is that they can stick any guy. They call up some guy from the AHL, stick him on the top line, play him. Oh, we'll play him with Sidney Crosby because Crosby's that talented. He can make any of those young guys look good. I mean, you look at some of these guys that have been brought up just from the minors or anywhere. Brought up, they stick them on the first line with Crosby, and they've got a second line, a third line, and even a fourth line that can be dangerous. And that's what really hurts Washington, because eventually they're gonna run out. They're gonna run out of scorers. They're gonna run out of guys that can really be lethal and be dangerous. I mean, if we keep Matt Murray even medium, like just decent skill, decent, no slip ups, no weak goals get let in. Overall, this Pittsburgh Penguins team is going to outlast this Washington Capitals team. And I'm not saying they're going to just go ahead and crush them. They could win every game with a goal and with 5 minutes to go, and it wouldn't surprise me. But I think this Pittsburgh team is still here, and this Capitals team is still down here. So I would look at Pittsburgh in this game, but I'm more confident in the over 5.5. Get on that early. And anyone that thought Pittsburgh was kind of out of this series, it blows my mind.
All right, so over 5.5. Andrew in agreement with me on the total there, over 5.5 for Pittsburgh, Washington, game 5. Alex B. Smith, Pittsburgh, Washington. What do you like here in this game?
I'm looking at the Penguins here in this spot. I think this is the time that we've seen them shine countless times, over the years. Where, all right, it's a 2-2 series. They're playing a team that they know that they have had the better of mentally and on paper and on the ice in all facets of the game for quite some time now. The pressure now is back on Washington in the sense of they're going home. Can they, muster up enough to get the 3-2 lead and then go back to Pittsburgh? I think there's a lack of pressure. Everything's a little bit easier now for Pittsburgh because they know that we've found a way to beat these guys, and even at our not playing our best game, we still can find a way to beat them. You got everybody back now, Hagelin and Malkin, those guys that were gone early in the series. So there's no excuses in that sense. Obviously, you got the Carter Austin Reese out from that hit. And I think that, like I said, that sparked something, in Pittsburgh as well too. Not now they don't have to worry about Tom Wilson. That's a huge little relief of pressure as well. They don't have to worry about somebody coming in, possibly blindsiding a guy, knocking a guy out of the game out of nowhere. And even you saw the frustration boil over at the end of the last game with Oshie and Letang. Oshie, a pretty mild mannered guy, swinging away at Letang and so forth. So now, you've seen that frustration mount a lot more with Washington, where Pittsburgh, it's okay, let's just play our game, keep doing the things that we've been doing that's got us here and got us through this team and through these series for the last several years now. And I think we're going to see that, and we're getting a really good price here. You can find it even money or minus $1.05. I think the Penguins are going to go back home with a chance to close it out. So I'm looking at them tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if you're basing this on past years, it's hard not to make a case for Pittsburgh in this spot, because this is where the adversity, you face it head on, 2-2. Best of 2 or 3. You've got a really good chance in the series if you win this game. Let's see what the Washington Capitals are made of. We know Pittsburgh can live up to moments like this. Do we know if the Washington Capitals can live up to moments like this? We don't know. That being said, I will say this about Washington. Since they were down 2-0 in that series against Columbus, they played some damn good hockey. They played some of their best hockey of the entire season, regular season and playoffs. Braden Holtby has clearly reestablished his game to a great extent in terms of providing steady, stabilized goaltending for the Washington Capitals. But now you just gave up the little edge you had with that last loss in Game 4, and now you're 2-2. Now you're at home. Fans are going nuts for you, but they're also going to be a little bit tight, I think, in that building. 2-2. They know if you don't win this game and defend home ice, you're going back to Pittsburgh down 3-2. Facing the prospects of having to win 2 straight games against this team that you A, never beat in the postseason, and B, in a round you never advanced past in the postseason. So that's what's staring the Washington Capitals right between the eyes. I agree with the commenter in the chat there about Kessel. He's got to get going for Pittsburgh. He's the one. There's a couple of guys there. Again, they're relying a lot on this Crosby and Gensel group, and of course Malkin has the 1 goal as well last night. Where's Brassard too? Derek Brassard and Brian Rust and Connor Sherry, who's capable of scoring goals and has done that in playoffs past. Where the hell's he been? I mean, there's a bunch of guys right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is surprising to me, but gosh, if they ever get some of these second, third, fourth liners to pop in a goal or two to help out this Crosby, Gensel, and Hornquist group, along with Malkin, God, it's going to be tough to stop Pittsburgh at that point if they could ever get those guys going, because we know that top line has been impossible to stop for anybody here so far in the playoffs against this Pittsburgh team. Let's get to Dana Lane, Washington, Pittsburgh here, Game 5. Dana, go for it.
Yeah, can Connor Sherry show up anytime now? I mean, he's
Exactly.
been non-existent. I mean, you want to talk about Phil Kessel being non-existent? I mean, that's true. I mean, Phil at least has a goal. I mean, Connor Sherry, I realize he's getting 12 minutes a game, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, he should. When Pittsburgh has been successful in the past, Connor Sherry was a household name. I mean, you started talking about him like, hey, where did this guy come from? And you're right about and it might have something to do with playing with Brassard as well, who has been absolutely horrific since coming to the Penguins. And Brian Rust has been okay, and so it's kind of the same situation as the previous series we've talked about, where the top 6 has been completely dominant. The only outside of Rust, though, I mean, these guys aren't getting any block shots. I mean, they're just kind of floating. They're non-existent. They're not making an impact on the ice, and that really is bothers me a little bit headed into this game in Washington, because this is a Capitals team, although they lost this game, didn't allow double digits to this high-powered Pittsburgh Penguin offense in any of the periods in Game 4. So I think if you're Washington and you go through your optional skate today, I think you got to feel pretty good about that headed back. That, hey, look, the series is still in our hands. We have to play well tonight, but I think ultimately it's going to play out like the Vegas series is going to play out, where Washington wins their home game tonight. Pittsburgh says enough is enough, and they win the last 2. But one thing too is, perhaps when we were doing our season preview, we were doing it kind of our postseason preview. We were kind of doing it on the premise that Braden Holtby wasn't Braden Holtby, and this is a guy that's had a fantastic career, especially in the postseason. I mean, his save percentage in his career is over 93%, with his goals against average is just a tick over 2. So he does come to play when the postseason starts. It just he didn't have that kind of regular season that we're I mean, his numbers weren't that bad, but there was a time that he basically lost his number one job. I mean, it was kind of back and forth with him. So I don't think when it went into the postseason that we had nearly the amount of confidence that we normally would in a goaltender of his caliber. Also, as well, the Washington Capitals were in a game that one goal barely trickled over the line. That was Malkin's goal. The other one was an empty netter. So you're really looking at one bona fide goal. And this is a game where Alex Ovechkin didn't have a shot on goal in over 20 minutes of hockey, and they're still right there with the Penguins. So I'm gonna take a chance minus $1.10. I try not to make anything more than simplistic in the postseason. I like playing home teams, especially when I'm getting a decent price. I'll take the Capitals in this one, but I think Pittsburgh wins at home, and then again takes one from Washington in DC.
All right, so there we go. So a Washington, Pittsburgh maybe finished to this series in the last 3 games, says Dana Lane. So he's on Washington here.
No.
Game
Pittsburgh's
5.
not done. Pittsburgh's
Yeah.
going to win the cup. I'm just saying, I think Washington's going to win this, and then Pittsburgh wins the next 2. And I know I'm really
Yep.
painting myself a corner with 2 of these series, but I don't think Pittsburgh's done. I think it's just a matter of flicking on that switch and being better than Washington, which they are.
And maybe they need backs against the wall facing elimination in a game 6 should they lose tomorrow night to be facing that kind of spot where, hey, we know now next loss and we're packing our bags and we're playing golf for the next few months. So that might get the Pittsburgh Penguins' attention if it gets to that. Dana says it might, though, because he's on Washington here, minus 110 for game 5. And it's funny because you look at the scoring here for some of these guys, and you saw Jacob Vrana score a goal for Washington. You saw Chandler Stevenson score a goal for Washington in this series. Believe it or not, the Washington depth forwards, which I criticized, they're playing Pittsburgh's depth forwards even in this series, pretty much, at least from what I've seen so far. And that's definitely not something I expected. But Pittsburgh's depth forwards, we know there's better in them. See if we get it from them in game 5. Let's go to Winnipeg, Nashville to wrap up the show. Our final game, game 5 in Music City. Nashville minus 160. The total 5.5 across the board. Again, finally an under in this series, and the total, which was our first 6 of this series in the last game, and now we see the drop back to 5.5 here for this game 5 total. That being said, I'm not sure I'm going to go with the over here in this game because we saw. And this goes against everything Peter Laviolette's done in his lifetime as a coach, going back to when he coached Carolina, coached Philadelphia, now coaching Nashville. He has never endorsed playing check, clog up the middle of the ice, almost neutral zone trap kind of hockey. Okay, and I was stunned to see him go to that and resort to that in game number 4 last night against the Winnipeg Jets. And that's essentially what Nashville did. Nashville is known for, they don't mind the wide open, 90-foot game. They don't mind trading chances. They don't mind showing off their speed and their defensemen flying into the rush as well. They don't mind playing that game until they ran up to this Winnipeg Jets team here in this series. And they saw through 3 games that we're flying up and down with these guys, trading chances, going back and forth, and we can't defend these guys worth a shit playing this way. That's really essentially what Nashville, I think, and Peter Laviolette in particular, realized after game 3. It's like, we can't win playing this way and playing up and down, going back and forth, and giving Winnipeg free reign, free ice, open ice to make plays through the middle, through the neutral zone. We've got to somehow make an adjustment. We've got to just play Katie by the door hockey and defensively minded and clog up the middle and do an old modified version of the New Jersey Devils in the 1990s here. That's really, honestly, if you watch that game last night, that's what you saw from the Nashville Predators. There was not much open ice. I think it took Winnipeg by surprise. There was not much room, not much time given through the middle of the ice for anybody on that Winnipeg Jets team. And you got to give Peter Laviolette a hell of a lot of credit. He hates coaching that staff. That's not the way he has. That's not the system he has run throughout his entire career. He doesn't play, trap hockey. Never has. But he said, "We're not winning right now. We're getting crushed defensively by this team. In the first 3 games, we got to do something to stem the tide." And I think this is kind of his way of stemming the tide. I mean, trying to play this defensive-minded hockey, and it worked. Look at Nashville, a tremendous 2-1 win, shut down this Winnipeg team. I know Rinne was good, but he didn't face anywhere close to the number of high-quality chances that he faced in the first 3 games. And because it worked and because it tied this series for Nashville, even though they're back home, and what do we say when teams are at home? They try to put on more of a show, try to be more fancy, make more plays. I don't think Nashville's going to deviate a ton from what they did in Game 4. It worked. They're going to clog it up even at home, I think, and try to force Winnipeg to make plays through the middle of the ice, play dump and chase, chip and chase hockey. I think they know that that's worked for them in Game 4. We got to try it again here in Game 5. But now comes the time, I think, for the Winnipeg Jets to make their adjustments in a series that's been back and forth. It's been a chess match. It's 2-2 going back to Nashville. It's time for Paul Maurice, who is a very smart an intelligent coach in my mind, to make some adjustments. Maybe we see a line tweak here or there. Maybe the way they attack Nashville changes based on what Nashville showed them in Game 4. All of that being said, what I'm getting to is I'm going to go in here and take a shot at the plus price here with the Winnipeg Jets, plus 140. I think they've got an adjustment in them. They've shown they can win in Nashville. I know Nashville, a great performance, great adjustment by Laviolette. And if Laviolette gets to another Cup final, or wins the Cup this year with Nashville, he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. You can write that down right now. There's no way you can keep him out if he gets to another Cup final, because it'll be his 4th Cup final with 3 different teams. There's no way. And he sort of showed you why he's got those Hockey Hall of Fame potential credentials, with the way he got that team to completely change the way they had played against this Winnipeg team, because what was working, or what they were doing before, wasn't working. So you got to give creative coaching of Peter Laviolette a lot of credit for that going into Game 4. But now I think the time comes for Winnipeg to make their adjustments and play a much better game themselves. I think that will put them in a position to be live to win Game 5 on the road in a series where the loser of the last game has bounced back and won the next one. That's all I need, and I'll take a shot here with Winnipeg plus 140 Saturday night in Game 5 in Music City. Dana Lane, Winnipeg, Nashville. What do you like here?
Well, any coach that's able to have success in Carolina belongs in the Hall of Fame, no matter what they do, and the rest of their career for sure. But
Yes.
hey, listen, I mean, it's very simple. It's almost the same assessment as we had in the previous game. I mean, again, the neutral zone, as you pointed out, was completely clogged by Nashville, and it's very important, the first goal in this game, of course, because then first goal, no matter whoever has it, can really dictate the defensive pace, and especially in Nashville's case, I think it's more important for Nashville to get the first goal than it is Winnipeg. But again, I think it's going to be spacing. It's going to be able to break that full court press, which I think that you're going to see not so much for 200 feet, but certainly inside the neutral zone, where I think Laviolette feels like he's had success. But I think if Winnipeg is able to beat that, then that really forces Nashville's hand to not play as aggressive, which plays into the hands of the Winnipeg Jets. And so this is a decent plus price. You're getting a team that I think is going to win the series anyway. So I would be I'm with you, Ian. I'm more than happy to take that plus price with a team that's already proven that they could win in Winnipeg. I think they dump the puck in more. I think they use their speed to get it in deep. I think they're going to have a lot more opportunities on the low slot area than they did in Game 4. And ultimately, I don't know if they just don't go ahead and win the next 2 games and take out Nashville in 6. I don't have a ton of credit in this Predator team, or a ton of confidence in this Predator team. I don't know which Pecorine is going to show up from one night to the next. I mean, when he's on, he's a top 5 goaltender in this league. When he's not on, he's hovering around where Tuukka Rask likes to bounce around from day to day. But tonight, I think you're going to see Winnipeg with their positioning much better, and by positioning meaning you're going to have inside position when you're coming out of your own zone. You can't have the outside position because that's exactly where Nashville wants you to be, so they can push you to the perimeter into their offensive zone, if in fact that you can get into the offensive zone. But if you're able to have inside position on the passes, then you're going to be able to find creases that you're going to be able to utilize your speed in an effort to get into the middle of the ice where Winnipeg is most effective. So that if they're able to do that, great. If Nashville pushes them to the outside, I think the Pekka Rinne has a typical 30-35 save performance, and basically puts a stranglehold on this series. But I have a lot of belief in head coaches, and I think Paul Maurice will make the necessary adjustments. And I think Winnipeg at this big plus price is worth a shot.
Yeah, I agree. I think Winnipeg plus price time for Paul Maurice to make adjustments. They're not, I think, overly difficult adjustments to make. Again, you chip the puck in more, you win one-on-one battles to the end boards, get those loose pucks, and just jam the puck right in front of the net, look for traffic and rebounds. I think that's the formula. It's not going to be skating through the middle of the ice because it worked all 3 games for Winnipeg. It didn't work in game 4 because of the clogging up of the neutral zone by Nashville in a more trap style. And again, Laviolette, give him credit for that, because this is a Nashville team that got to the Stanley Cup final playing up and down hockey. That's been the system he's used. And for the first time ever, he's finally just come to the realization that, oh my gosh, we're playing the way we always usually do against and the way we beat all teams we beat, and being this great team, number 1 in the West in points, and yet we're not being able to win that way here in this series with this Winnipeg team. He made that adjustment. Let's clog it up. Let's slow the pace down. And man, did it ever work for Nashville in game 4. But I think Winnipeg adjusts and has a chance to win game 5 on the road. Alex B. Smith, Nashville, Winnipeg. Fascinating matchup. It's been a great series, compelling chess match from a coaching standpoint. Everything you want in a good series, Alex. What do you like in this game here?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic series, and unfortunately, I was on the over in last game, and like I said, now I'm realizing that we're seeing these series kind of shift and trend more to the under. We're seeing teams tightening down defensively, and like you said, this is if of all the 4 series, this is definitely the biggest one as far as coaches making adjustments and changes, and seeing those play out much to how they want it to happen in each game. And I think that's going to be the case here with Winnipeg. Like I said, at a plus 140 price, these teams aren't that far apart from one another, obviously being 2-2 in a series. And it's a team we've seen be able to play well on the road. They're not afraid of the crazy crowd down there in Nashville. So they're not gonna be rattled. They came out flat last game. They know that they have to play at a much higher level, higher performance. And they're a team that can morph their style and morph their ability. Like I said, they don't have to skate right down the middle. They can be a little creative, dump and chase and skate hard. Maybe even play a little more physical, especially when they get down, behind the net, to get inside of Nashville zone, use their size to their advantage here. So yeah, Winnipeg's the way I'm leaning here. Like I said, I believe Winnipeg's going to win this series. Winnipeg was my pick to win the Stanley Cup. So I do think they find a way to win here, and I think we're getting a really good price with it. So Jets plus 140. I also would probably look at the overtime prop here. I could see this game being tight, maybe a 2-2 or 3-3 spot going into OT. And usually, I haven't played those in a while, but I think we might get a decent price around plus 310 or 320 there. So that's something I'll have circled as well.
Oh yeah, definitely could see it being a very close game. And as I mentioned, the losing team of the previous game in this series is 3-0. In the next game, it would be 4-0 if Winnipeg's able to get the job done here in Game 5. Andrew McGinnis, Nashville, Winnipeg, take it away.
Yeah, here's the problem in my eyes, guys, and the problem to me is that we haven't really seen Nashville play their best game yet, and we haven't really seen exactly what their stars are capable of doing. We didn't see Forsberg and players like that play their style that they played even against a team like Colorado. And I know it's obviously a way different team in the Winnipeg Jets, of course, but we haven't really seen them be themselves and get comfortable yet and make these special plays that they're used to making. But to be quite honest with you, I'm on the side where I believe that in order for Nashville to stay successful and succeed against this Winnipeg team, they have to keep the score under the total. They have to keep it a lower scoring game. They have to play that different style that Ian and Dana and you guys were mentioning, where they have to kind of calm things down a little bit. Oftentimes in sports, and I coach a little bit on the side, and you often tell your team, don't try and play to the level of your opposition. Play to yourself, like play to your game. And I think that's kind of been an issue for this Nashville Predators team. they came into this series against the Winnipeg Jets trying to beat the Winnipeg Jets, and instead of trying to just play themselves and just right now all the games that they've lost, I feel like they've lost it on themselves, and I don't really think the Winnipeg Jets have fully beat them. But I do think that the Winnipeg Jets are an awfully dangerous team. I mean, they've got weapons. I mean, yesterday watching that game, guys, the amount of ice time that Patrick Laine got at the end of that game, you saw him just talking to every player, discussing stuff with Scheifele, Bufflin. I mean, everybody. And then all of a sudden he snipes that goal. I mean, they made it look so planned, so scripted, so perfect that those weapons really do scare me for Winnipeg. But I'm gonna look to go to the under again in this game, guys. I feel like it's gonna switch, like Alex is saying, the tides are turning, and I think the teams are starting to narrow down. Lavi's trying to figure out what works best for his team. Not how can I beat the Winnipeg Jets, but what works best for our team in this situation. And I have a future on the Predators to win the Cup this year, and I think we'll see an even more improved, and even better team in the next game. But I'm more so on the under in next game than any side.
All right, under for Andrew in the Winnipeg-Nashville Game 5. Yeah, Nashville's probably going to be in one of those situations where they're better off playing that way now, a lower scoring game. It's unbelievable, but Nashville all season long, up and down. Last year, run to the Cup final, up and down. Now they've played this Winnipeg team, and Peter's probably thinking after Game 3, we're skilled, we're talented, we're fast. Yet we don't have quite as much of any of that compared to this Winnipeg team based on what they're doing to us so far here in this series. And that's why he's gone to this little stylistic shift now and just, take away that speed through the neutral zone. And man, that style worked for Nashville in Game 4 and might be the style they're going to need to employ moving forward if they're going to win this series against this opponent. Maybe in the next round they can go back to playing a little bit more open, but he's obviously made that decision that, hey, we're going to win this series and beat this Winnipeg Jets team. We got to slow the pace down just a little bit. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. We got best bets to end the show. Friday or Saturday, any of the games on the table, take your pick in terms of what you want to use for a best bet. Let's start with Andrew first. Let's go to you, Andrew. Best bet for Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, let's grab the over. Penguins Capitals. I think it's going to be kind of a response style game. Yesterday was a very broken down style, kind of slow pace. Like Dana said, I mean, we got to see it, guys. We got to look at it from the outside perspective. Besides that kind of challenged goal and the one that just crossed the line, Malkin diving in there, it really was a slow-paced game in my eyes. There weren't too many opportunities for the All-Stars, for the Washington Capitals. And, like I just said about the Nashville Predators, I think we haven't really seen the best game from the overall depth of this Pittsburgh team. We haven't seen that explosiveness. And I'm still waiting on one of those games, guys. I think that next game might be the game. So the over 5.5 is my pick, my best bet.
All right, over 5.5, Washington, Pittsburgh. That's Saturday night, Game 5 for Andrew with his best bet. Dana Lane, what do you got for us for best bet?
Well, the weakest portion of the Vegas Golden Knight team is certainly down the middle on their third line. Cody Eakin is probably not a bona fide third line player, and he's kind of one of those guys where I don't really know where to put him, but I know I want to get him 10, 12 minutes a game. He must spark that third line for the Vegas Golden Knights to have success. But I'm going to go with the Knights one more time tonight. But in order for them to win, I mean, Perron, Cody Eakin, Thomas Tatar, whoever is going to be, I'm sure Gallant's going to shake the lineup a little bit. Maybe we'll see a Ryan Carpenter involved in that, but they must be a factor offensively in order for this team to find success tonight. And I think they will be, because I think, David Perron realizes the importance of him having success, not just team-wise, but also financially. So I think we will see success from that third line finally as Vegas takes the 3-2 lead in the series.
All right, Vegas, minus 150 for Dana Lane with his best bet. Let's go to Alex B. Smith. Best bet. What do you got?
Pittsburgh Penguins, they've won 6 of the last 7 games on the road. This is the time for them to shine and show why they're defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. The pressure that's been mounting on Washington, that they looked frustrated and defeated at the end of that last game in Game 4. And I think we see Pittsburgh come out play a full 60-minute effort. We finally get some contributions from those second, third line guys that have been quiet, the Brian Rusts and the Connor Shearys and so forth. And I think the Penguins at an even money price, definitely worth looking at as a best bet here.
All right, Pittsburgh, best bet. for Alex B. Smith. And my best bet will be time for the Winnipeg Jets to make adjustments. A little Paul McCartney in the wings there, a little Jet action here. Let's go with the Winnipeg Jets plus 140. That'll be my best bet. Hey, it's been back and forth. You've seen Winnipeg win, Nashville win, Winnipeg win, Nashville win. It's Winnipeg's time. Their time to make adjustments. Their time to step up and win the next game. And I say they do it. Winnipeg plus 140. My best bet for Saturday on this show. And that's going to wrap things up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Another good number of viewership. We appreciate that. We'll be back for our special abbreviated Sunday edition of the show, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, Sunday afternoon, a 30-minute show. We'll just break down the 2 games taking place on Sunday. It'll be Boston, Tampa, and Vegas, San Jose taking place on Sunday. We'll talk about those games. So join us then, Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, for our next edition of the NHL Ice Guys. For Alex, Dana, and Andrew, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the NHL playoff action on Friday and Saturday, and we'll see you again on Sunday.